Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Yo, VIP, let's kick it. Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back, and hopefully they're coming to Louisville, and so that's what we're hoping for today. We're going to talk about the Louisville ICE protest and all things ICE as it relates to well, first of all, welcome to the show. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. And we're talking about immigration today. Of course, this is impacting Louisville. It's impacting the entire nation. And I'm going to stop the karaoke in the background because I've got that running. It's distracting me. There we go. So we've got this, of course, LA's burning down. People, they say, oh, it's mostly peaceful. No, go to LA. It's a mess. I mean, there's cars burning. There's, police being attacked and tear gas, everything else. And it's just, it's a riot. It's a riot. And so, there's rumblings that they want to bring that to Louisville. And so we're going to talk about that. Louisville and other places. We got other, on Saturday, there's going to be a huge nationwide protest called the No King protest. And they've got locations all over the state where they want to have these protests, which are just, sparks for riots. And so we're going to talk about that today. But we have, I'm very lucky today to be joined in the studio with Bob Scott, our colleague, with Kentucky's Voice, Bob. And we also have a very special guest, Zach Scott, Bob Scott's son.
I'm his youngest son.
Youngest son. There we go. So we are going to kick it today with some Scotts today. So it's Scott baby is what it is. So. Okay, guys, let's talk about this. I tell you, before we go into this, I'm going to play this DRB news story, and just to kind of break this out a little bit and to see what's just happened in Louisville. So here we go.
Close eye on what's happening.
Power to the people.
The anger of a generation. A protest Monday drew on the anger of every political issue in the headline. The protests attracted several hundred people to the steps of Metro government. Newly elected Metro Council member J.B. Leninger issued a warning.
And we are seeing it here. There were people who were taken on 3rd Street just the other day, and people were tagging me in pictures and videos. This is happening here. It's happening in our community. It's maybe not the scale of Los Angeles.
The FBI in Louisville posted a picture of an arrest helping federal ICE agents. And LMPD tells us that they have not been asked to help with any immigration arrests.
So we haven't assisted with ICE on any operation here locally, but they have not asked our help for our assistance on any operation.
LMPD's policy limits the involvement of officers making ICE arrests unless the person in question has outstanding criminal Kentucky warrants. The Department of Justice has been very critical of LMPD's handling of the 2020 protests, and LMPD says that they have trained extensively on the use of force. Police say that they are aware of the protests planned for this weekend.
We have people prepared to handle protests and handle any sort of public safety issues as they might arise. There may be a chance that we don't need to intervene at all, and that would be fantastic. We allow people to protest and exercise their First Amendment. But yes, we will be in the area. We'll be monitoring.
The protest is planned for Saturday at noon. Richard Essex, WDRB News.
There we go. So here we are, guys, protesting. Obviously, people have the right to express their First Amendment rights and to protest. Absolutely. I get this, but anybody who's organizing protest right now, with the earshot of what's happening in L.A., you're asking for that to spread to Louisville. It is irresponsible as an organization or even as an individual to go out and protest ICE raids right now in this environment with LA burning down, because all you're doing is you're asking that to come here, and so. So that point number one, and also look at everybody who was showing up to these things. It was not just ICE protests. There's people with kafirs on, like the pro-Palestine movement. Yeah, just the people that are behind this sort of stuff are just a amalgamation of all this crazy left-wing stuff that they kind of just really want a revolution.
Kind of a conglomeration of left-wing wackos.
That's right.
Yeah, and really, I mean, as we've seen, it escalates beyond protest into full-blown riots.
That's right. Exactly right. Now, thankfully, it hasn't happened yet here. A riot hasn't happened yet here in Louisville, but who knows what's going to happen Saturday. And but there actually was one of the councilmen. I forgot who it was. It was the lady in the Southwest Jefferson County. She attacked the mayor. She said, "Listen, yeah, you thought it was peaceful, but these people were actually blocking traffic. They were violating traffic laws. There was no organized permit for this, and so they were already kind of edging outside of what's lawful just with the protests they had this week. So good for her for saying that. And so yeah, so this is just not right. And this Saturday, like I said, there's this national protest called No King's Day that they're organizing to do this. I might even have a map here. Let's see if I can pull this up while we're talking. But Bob, yeah, so pull this up on the screen. These are all the protests that are scheduled around the country and all over the country. And we'll go back to Bob here real quick. I'm going to zoom up on Kentucky and I'll show you how many are actually in Kentucky. But Bob, so.
Well,
what are your thoughts on
yeah,
this?
my thoughts are, first of all, to put something like that together, I mean, look at all of the dots,
Yeah, I was going to say it's a lot of markers. It's everywhere.
It's an incredible amount of planning has gone into this, and I would argue, I mean...
This was not put together haphazardly, certainly.
No, and
that's right.
And I do feel, obviously... It's a case of spilled milk and people that did not get their way.
That's right.
In the election.
That's right. Exactly.
Are trying to manufacture a crisis is what they're trying to do. And gee, have we seen this happen before?
Yeah, in Louisville.
Yes.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, this is with George Floyd.
2020 BLM riots.
That's right. Yeah, they're just trying to replicate that dynamic. And to your point, this is all organized. This is all paid for by somebody. And matter of fact, the event that just happened the other day was a lot of it was this union, the employees union. Service Employees Union International or something, which is apparently they're upset about one of their leaders in L.A. getting caught up in some of these ICE raids, and so how irresponsible for a local union to go out and start protests right now in that environment. If these are Louisvillians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your city to be a tinderbox for all this stuff again? I'm sorry, it's just fine. Voice your opinion, but not right now in a citywide protest that can easily turn into a riot. And this city has a history of that. And so very irresponsible. Look at the screen here. We've got, these are all the areas where these these protests, quote unquote, are going to try to kick off on Saturday. Shelbyville. All right, we've got it in over there in New Albany. We've got one in Corydon. We've got 2 in Louisville. So that's just in our viewing area.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm interested to see how many people are going to actually show up
to these things, right?
For this. And again, it's something we've seen before.
Yep.
Quite frankly, it's getting old, and if you look
tired.
Yeah, and you know what? If you look at the poll numbers, of Trump, it's something like right now, as far as in response to these very coordinated quote unquote protests.
Right.
I've seen several things, anywhere from 70 to 80% of the people in America are against. What's happening right now.
That's right. Yeah, Trump's approval ratings are shooting up right now because of this. People are really offended, and they should be so offended by somebody. But a lot of these are illegal immigrants themselves that are protesting. First of all, you don't even belong here, right? You're
waving Mexican flags.
You're waving a flag from another country. That you talk about ticking Americans off. It's like, what? Hold on. Yeah, we First Amendment right. Yeah, exactly. But if we went to your country and started waving an American flag and started protesting, guess what? I would be locked up in 2 seconds. And you go to Africa or some of these third world countries, you wouldn't just be locked up; you'd be dead. It's like, what do you mean? This is Zimbabwe. We don't allow for that.
And that's a good point.
You're getting hacked up.
Talk about coming here, living the American dream. Well, living the American dream is not flying a flag of a country that you just tried to
exactly
escape.
Right. Yeah, and if you love that country so much, why are you here? Go back to your country. Yeah, it's just the natural question. And so, so I think this is definitely organized, and I think it's funded, and it's a left wing sort of idea to try to create another summer of love. Try to this is summer of love as a reference to what happened with the George Floyd riots. The whole summer where the country blew up.
Yep.
And that's the left's way of kind of throwing a tantrum, getting their way, kind of controlling the narrative. And so we want to ask our listeners and viewers right now on our text line to text us Hey, it's on the screen. It's also, it's 502-571-0970. How should people in this area, in Kentucky, in Louisville, that are pro-ICE enforcement, pro-immigration enforcement, how should we respond to these sort of protests? Are we just supposed to sit back and let the left control the narrative, and every news story that's on is just about how these protests are happening, and all these left-wingers get on the air and say every immigrant should be protected, and they're just human beings, and da-da-da. What about the Americans that are getting screwed? What about all these? Our church, we have a rehab center, and so it's full of men they're addicted to fentanyl, right? Yeah. What about their lives?
Right.
That's right. What about the guys that can't get jobs in the trades right now because nobody wants to, can work for $5 an hour, what you'd pay for.
And you know what? The thing that everybody's
us.
This is exactly what Donald Trump ran on, among other things.
That's right.
But this was one of the main reasons he won, because he said he was going to do something about the illegal immigration that's going on in our country. This is what America wants.
That's right. That's exactly right. And what's actually going on? What are they protesting right now? They're protesting ICE going out and enforcing or doing raids on the worst of the worst, right? The people they're locking up right now are just criminals who have actual criminal records, who are evading the law, and need to be deported because they're just beyond just their criminal alien from being. That's one issue of being criminality. These are the people that have done on top of that, like gone beyond that of human trafficking and drug smuggling and murder and all. Yeah, these are the people that they're these protesters are protecting those folks, and so. Yeah, go.
I was just going to say they're not first-time offenders; they're repeat offenders, as you're saying. Human traffickers, drug smugglers. I mean, the list goes on.
That's right. Yeah, and so if you can't support that sort of immigration enforcement, then what kind of human being are you? Are you even loyal to the country? It's like if you support this stuff, it's borderline sedition, and I just, I have no tolerance for it, and we should not tolerate it here in the city. So there we go.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and we are talking immigration and the ICE protest and the raids that are going on and the immigration enforcement that the Trump administration is ramping up, and thank God, he's doing that, because Americans are tired of this problem. We're tired of our cities being overran. by illegal immigrants. We're tired of our services being a good example. I went to immediate care the other day. I'm in line, and at least 2 or 3 immigrant families. I'm sure they're illegal immigrants. I'd hate to be, just casting aspersions right there, but chances are they were. And it's like, here, these are our services. These are our tax dollars that have built these roads, that built these facilities, and if you're not supposed to be here legally, then you're basically stealing residency. And so it is immoral for you to be here, to steal residency from America and use our facilities. And on top of that, drop our wages, and then also the associated criminality and drug trafficking that goes on, the human trafficking. There's so many issues. America's aware of it. We've kind of woken up to the problem, and it's like, why is suddenly our city not even feel like home anymore? I've got 15 languages in my neighborhood here. I don't even feel like I'm in a community that I feel like I'm home anymore. And that just you might say, oh, that you're just being racist. Oh, you're just a white nativist or something like that. No, people are designed to live in communities where we can relate to one another, we trust one another, where there's a certain amount of social trust and social capital, where we can function as a community. And when you don't have that, things go wrong, and people are just unhappy, and it breaks. The society starts breaking down. You can't have just unfettered immigration. Go to Springfield, Ohio, where there's 10,000 Haitian immigrants dropped into a town of 20,000 people, and just see how great it is to live there now. And it's ridiculous. And then for actual enforcement to occur, and us to actually start addressing it, and just on the edges of it, which is we're just addressing the edges of illegal immigration. We're just let's just go out and get the real hardened criminals, and get them deported, and then suddenly the whole world erupts, especially on the left, and a lot of immigrant activists that are not even citizens here. They start protesting and marching and waving flags from another country. That is so offensive. Anyway, so we're talking about that today. And so, Bob, we had some comments.
Yeah, we had
off
our text line. These people need to be locked up. They are interfering with federal law enforcement. I caution my fellow listeners and viewers to be vigilant.
Very vigilant. Yeah, very vigilant. And we need to be active in getting our message out, our perspective on it. Right now, the left and all these protesters have a way of kind of capturing the media's attention. And before you know it, everybody thinks, well, I guess everybody's sympathetic to these folks. Maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on this. No, you need to stand your ground and know that you're getting screwed. And I'll tell you how you're getting screwed. If California, they're all about this. They love illegal immigration, and so because they're run by Democrats. So guess what? The Democratic Party and Californians specifically, they get more congressional representation in the House, because in the census they count illegals as residents. So now you can have a congressional district full of illegals and citizens, and they will actually count the illegals as a member of that. So
it's hard to believe, but that is happening.
They will apportion congressional districts to California based on the illegals that live in that district. So guess what? Your political power, your representation as an American citizen in Kentucky is getting diluted and stolen by states like California and sanctuary states and cities that accept that stuff. And so your power, your political power, that's your family, your heritage fought for 200 or 300 years to build this country, it's getting stolen by this system. And you should be upset. And don't back down for a second on this, because this is wrong. This is wrong. And America is not a soup kitchen. We're not a charity. We are a country. We're a country of a people that actually have to live and function and develop our society that's healthy. And right now, this system of this overwhelming illegal immigration is undermining everything about this country. And it needs to be dealt with fairly, and it's immoral for these immigrants to be coming in and doing this. And I'm tired of this sympathetic, they're just trying to get here for a better life. Well, that's fine. You know what our families did hundreds of years ago? We fought a revolution. We fought several world wars. We fought civil wars in order to better ourselves and better this country. Go back to your country and do that. I'm sorry, it's tough. Tough love here, but you need to go fix your own countries. Don't come here as I forget it. I'm just going to. Who cares about my fellow citizens in Guatemala? I'm just going to go to America and check out. And no, you owe something to your fellow citizens in Guatemala. Go fix Guatemala. it is wrong to just abandon your families and your country. And so let's just get real about this from a big picture. It's just anyway. I'm sorry, I'm on a soapbox. Well, that's what the show's about. It's a soapbox. So, anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. Don't come over here if you can't fix the problems in your own world.
That's right. Yeah.
This is
And we are a nation of immigrants. I mean, let me finish.
We're a
Let me
nation
finish.
of settlers that built the country.
Correct. But
we
I'm,
invited
I'm
immigrants
just saying
when it blesses us.
those who came. I know my family. They came over in the early 1800s.
Okay.
what about the Irish potato
famine that was happening there? But the point I'm making is they came over legally.
That's right.
and went through Ellis Allen and did the things the right way.
That's right.
And I'm just saying, we are, and that's what makes America so wonderful. We are a melting pot of many nations and cultures, but it's all blended under one flag.
That's right.
One constitution.
One culture. This multiculturalism stuff doesn't work. You basically get into a system of a bunch of tribalized, systems, and it's not healthy. And so we used to be immigration. We would have waves of immigration that we turned on and turned off based on our needs as a country.
That's right.
Back in the 1800s, late 1800s, okay, let's just, we've got the West to settle. Let's go ahead and open up the floodgates and let immigrants come in. And then the 20s, we kind of said, okay, we've had enough. Let's shut it down. We need to absorb these people. We need to assimilate the people. And these same conversations we're having now, they had 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
And so we said, okay, let's shut it down and let's let this population assimilate into the American system. At that time, we had a very strong American culture, and so people were proud of being Americans. And immigrants came over here; they wanted to be Americans. They say, I want to speak English. I want to absorb. I don't want to be this other culture anymore. I want to be part of the American culture. Nowadays, we don't even like our own culture, and so we can't. And then we have, actually, 1 out of 4 people in this country are foreign-born. It is the highest percentage that we've ever had in this country.
Right.
So this latest wave of immigration, both legal and illegal, is the highest percentage we've ever had in this country. Very destabilizing. And Bob, I'll go back to your point about, yes, we're a nation of immigrants. We are to a point, but the nation was founded by settlers who came over and settled basically an empty continent. Yes, it was basically an empty continent. There were a few Indians around, but they were very few because a lot of them died off because of diseases. Like 90% of Indians were killed off by disease before they even saw a European. So there's mostly an empty continent that the settlers came in and created colonies, and then we basically formed a country. We built a country, and so we settled it and built it, created it, and then we invited immigrants in. And so, no, we're not fully a nation of immigrants. We're people. A lot of us are settlers that settled. My family goes back before the Revolution. Yeah. And so we built. And
I have some in my family.
Exactly.
It's the same deal.
And I tell you, who's also against this illegal immigration more than the average American is legal immigrants. They're so fed up with this.
That's correct.
Because they know what they've had to go through to become American
The
citizens.
shift on that has been
huge.
Crazy.
It's huge. Yes.
Where
since
it was. I believe before the election, something like 20% in the favor of Biden, the Democratic Party.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's 40% in favor
of enforcement.
I'll just add one point. People are so easy to get offended about, colonizing or whatever, but that's what countries do. Countries colonize other countries.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there we go. And we're being colonized right now. Yeah. And the Mexican government basically is saying it. They're saying, hey, don't do that to our people that are in your country, and don't try to tax remittances, or we may have to say something, or it may get them to mobilize. That's a threat. So in other words, you better let us colonize you, or else, we might do something about it. I'm sorry, Mexico. Forget you. I'm just so I'm fired up today, and I should be, and you guys are too. And so anyway, okay, we'll be back right for this immigration.
Yeah, got another text.
to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
All right, we're talking immigration. We're talking the ICE protest that happened in Louisville this week and the upcoming protest, the No Kings protest that they're organizing around the country that will also impact Louisville with the 14th, that's Saturday, right? So this Saturday. And so will that turn into a full-blown riot like we saw with the Breonna Taylor riots? Will that turn into some sort of messy, urban street battle like you're seeing out in L.A.? We don't know. We hope not. We pray that it doesn't. But I think people in Louisville and Kentucky, and especially people that are pro immigration enforcement and who voted for Trump, we're very thankful this sort of immigration enforcement is happening, and we're very supportive of ICE, supportive of what they're doing here. And this is just the beginning. It's just they're just going after the hardened criminals. These are ICE raids on people that are like human traffickers and murderers and drug dealers. And yeah, these people ought to be. First of all, they're illegal for one, and so they shouldn't be here. And then they're in the country, acting as criminals. Beyond that, beyond just being a criminal alien, there's actually being, hardened criminals on top. Yeah, these people need to go. And anybody that would protest that, what is wrong with you? And I just don't get it. And so, but we do need to deal with the average everyday illegal as well. And I think we're going to get to that. And Trump's got a plan for that. A lot of it's going to be self-deportation because it's going to be harder to work here. Eventually they're going to make it harder for people just to operate in the shadows like they have been. And then, anyway, so we're talking about that, and we won't prevent Louisville from going into a riot like happened with Breonna Taylor back in the day. And so the BLM riots should not be a summer of love in Louisville. Let's prevent that from happening. And so we're asking our callers and listeners right now, text us, give us your thoughts on what should Louisvillians, how should we respond to these sort of protests, and should we do something to kind of say something, get the narrative changed. Maybe somebody ought to get a sign and hang it up on an overpass somewhere and say, hey, we support ICE raids, or we support Trump's immigration, or go or something. Because it seems like the left is, when it comes to these public demonstrations, they really own it. They seem to know how to do this because that's their whole modus operandi.
But don't you think, Tom, you can argue too that by them acting out like they are,
it's true,
that they're digging themselves a deeper ditch,
exactly, right,
along that way. And we have, in fact, off our text line, somebody texted in, I know they're mostly going after the hardened criminals right now, but anybody that burns our flag and or spits on it and is not a legal citizen should be deported with high priority.
That's right.
Well,
that's
I
exactly right.
think the great irony here is that they claim they want unity, but I think about our own state motto, United, or what was it? United we stand, divided we fall.
That's right.
And
that's right.
It's just these protests, as they call them, riots. Really, it's just I feel like it's creating more division. It's not.
That's right.
It's not uniting.
That's right.
And there's an element that wants that. Because if there's chaos, I hate saying it, but it's out leftist playbook 101.
That's right.
Is to create anarchy and
I believe it was one of the BLM founders that said we're trained Marxists.
Yeah,
that's it.
And that's it.
That's
if they can listen. We need to come together as a nation. I've got plenty of friends that are Democrats and on that side, but that also don't agree with the rioting and looting.
Right.
Now I venture to
any
say
sane person doesn't.
Right. No sane, and that's a good way of putting that, Zach. Any sane person doesn't, But I do believe that there's an underlying agenda that's going on right now, and it's been going on for a while. That's trying to take this country down, and a lot of people that are in the know, a lot smarter than I am, are saying the same thing, and we need to be aware of this.
That's right.
And being able, and, you got people even like John Fetterman. Did you ever think that John Fetterman would be the voice of reason?
That's
right. From the Democratic Party, but even he himself is saying, and I'd sent you a clip. Tom emailed it to you.
Did you? Okay.
We might be able to play. Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say the best way really to destroy any country is internal collapse. Pivot neighbor against neighbor, make them think that because they disagree on one thing that they suddenly have to disagree on everything, and we can't have an open conversation, open dialogue.
Right. No, that's a very good point. And right on the money. Because if we can't work together, that's what made America great. This still is the greatest nation on the planet, and that's why these forces are working so hard to try to bring it down. And by the way, I'm going to say it again. I always talk about the communist Chinese. They are not a friend of this nation,
right.
and now more information is coming out that they are actually helping to fund.
Sure. That's right.
These protests.
And it's
Chinese,
like with like
George Soros, all these guys. Yeah.
I was just gonna say with like TikTok, for example, and like China, like what they feed their the Chinese TikTok over there. It's not the same as what they want. They want American.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's right. Hey, we got this clip from Fetterman. See if we can play this, guys. In the back, we're going to pull this up real fast. And all right.
Defend when people start setting things on fire, or they start damaging buildings, or going after members of law enforcement. That's not free speech. That is not peaceful protests.
If Senator Fetterman or anybody else is concerned with law and order, we should be looking at one of the most law-breaking agencies and administrations that we've seen in the United States.
Oh, goodness.
And there's a perfect example of the division.
That's right.
Unfortunately, most people are AOC that's in the Democratic Party.
That's right.
They
who's still left in the Democratic Party. Because they're all leaving.
They go with that line of thinking.
Yeah.
But, Fetterman is a voice of reason now.
At least exactly right.
In that group.
He seems to be one of the few moderates Democrats on this issue specifically, and thank goodness we've got that on our side on some level. But you're right. There is this far left movement that sort of agitates, and this is the way they move the narrative is by protesting and agitating and creating anarchy and having these moments where they can disrupt the peace and tranquility. There's a term for it. It's like an anarcho tyranny and it's kind of what they're. It's a whole idea of just we need to create a crisis, and so we can kind of move the country to a new position, and that crisis will, even though the folks in the country may not like the crisis, it helps move them to this new position, and so we're on to you, and we're not letting that happen. So,
because really, this anarchy, what it is, it's organized chaos.
That's right.
I mean, I mean, we saw those pinpoints. We saw all the locations across the map. They want to organize. They want to turn brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor.
It's to a point too that even the heiress of Walmart, and I can't remember her name right now.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
But she is kicking in money. I know she paid for a full page ad in the New York Times,
right,
to be promoting this.
That's right. And people were saying, let's go out and boycott Walmart. Well, Walmart came out yesterday and said, well, hold on. She has nothing to do with us, but then people are pushing back. Well, she's also a huge stockholder in Walmart, and you pay her profits and dividends. So maybe you ought to just say something about So I don't know. So Walmart's kind of a sketchy. Walmart money may be going to fund some of this stuff inadvertently through this lady.
Yeah, and I think generally speaking, at least the management of Walmart are decent, good Americans.
Yeah.
But she's a trust fund baby, and she's got billions of dollars.
That's right.
Crazy thing about Walmart though is that Bentonville, Arkansas, where their headquarters are, that's where they control the air conditioning for all stores across the country.
Right.
Like that's
and let's face it, Walmart has basically made their money off of Chinese products and all this outsourcing of American labor in a lot of ways. So great. Walmart provides a good low cost item, but they sure have incentivized offshoring. Another topic I want to bring up is we got our own senator here in the state, Rand Paul, who's in some hot water right now. Matter of fact, he got uninvited from the summer picnic at the White House that's happening, I think, this weekend, because he's voting against the big beautiful bill, and he's been raising a lot of concerns about spending in this bill, and he made a comment the other day. I'm going to try to pull this up here in a second if I've got it, but he made a comment the other day about how we're spending too much on immigration, and oh goodness, hopefully I can find it. Yeah, here we go. See if I can pull this up. Actually, I think this is the clip where he's complaining about being. Let's play this clip. He's complaining about being disinvited from the. Go ahead, guys.
Now, Back to
Yep, wrong clip.
Kentucky's
Wrong
Way.
clip. Yeah, we're going.
My son and daughter-in-law and grandson are coming up because we were going to the White House picnic, but I've just been told that I've been uninvited from the picnic. I think I'm the first senator in the history of the United States to be uninvited to the White House picnic. The White House is owned by the taxpayers. We all are members of it. Every Democrat will be invited. Every Republican will be invited, but I will be the only one disallowed to come on the grounds of the White House. I just find this incredibly petty. I mean, I have been, I think, nothing but polite to the president. I have been a intellectual opponent, a public policy opponent, and he's chosen now to uninvite me from the picnic and to say my grandson can't come to the picnic. I just the level of immaturity is beyond words. I've been here long enough that if anybody has ever followed me, I've been a critic of Obama, I've been a critic of Biden, I've been a critic of the previous Trump, but always in I think, a reasonable fashion along policy. And so they've decided they want to declare war on my family and exclude us from the White House. Wow. And I just think it's incredibly petty. And I hope someone will ask them some questions about how they've decided to sink to this depth.
Let me say this, Senator Paul. People generally love your libertarian stance and your principles and sort of your academic approach to this stuff, and we've been very supportive of that over the years. But if you're singing out of tune right now, and because the tune right now is we are in a counter-revolutionary moment. We barely saved the republic in this last election. Yes. And there's a whole lot of heavy lifting that needs to occur right now to restore the country and repair the damage. And we don't have the time for these sort of academic arguments right now. Most of this bill, the big beautiful bill that I've seen, are pretty reasonable initiatives. And this isn't like the final bill that's ever going to get passed throughout the history of time. Let's just get this passed and quit being this foil. We get what you're saying. We're spending too much. Well, okay, let's address this in future bills, but let's get this passed right now. And in your academic argument, you might get offended by this. Hey, I'm getting kicked out of this part. Well, you know what? You have power, Senator Paul, and you are voting against this bill. And so it's not just academic. You're actually using your power to work against the administration. And so what do you think they're going to do? They're going to say, listen, this is an important moment for us, and you're not playing along. And so, we're going to disinvite you from a party. Oh, I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. But you're singing out of tune. This is a key moment, and you need to just change your perspective on this. Anyway, we'll be right back. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. We're talking immigration, ICE raids, and protests in Louisville. And Senator Paul. And I really love
You're doing a great job.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're talking about the protest in Louisville that's occurred this week, the ICE protest. And, we started off the show singing Ice, Ice, Baby. And I think we should, maybe that's one thing you can do as a Kentuckian, as a Louisvillian, is whenever you see these protests, crank up Vanilla Ice real loud and just drive by them and go, Ice, Ice, Baby, boom, boom. And just make your point that you're supportive of this. You're supportive of what's going on because, it's in your interest to do so. We're just tired of this illegal immigration problem disrupting our country and destroying it in so many ways. And it's not just an academic, ethereal thing, or hey, we have all this fun ethnic food. Well, yeah, you do, but you know what? Your kid can't get a job now, and there's fentanyl in the streets, and there's and you can't get into the hospital, because you have 15 people from 15 other countries that are ahead of you and that shouldn't be here to begin with. So using your facilities, they're diluting your political power. The government's counting them as a resident when it comes to apportionment of positions. So they're diluting your power, and so all these issues that are they may seem a little tangential, but they really hit home, and we're tired of it. And just what I can go into. Let's talk about Andy Beshear. So Andy Beshear, he came out.
Do we have to?
Oh, we have to because this guy wants to be president. So he came out. We'll pull this up real quick. This is a quote from him. President Trump's move to deploy California's National Guard is an alarming abuse of power. Governors are the commanders-in-chief in their National Guard, and the federal government activating them in their own borders without consulting or working with the state governor is ineffective and dangerous. Further threatening to send U.S. Marines into American neighborhoods undermines the mission of our service members, erodes public trust, and shows the Trump administration does not trust local law enforcement. It's important that we respect the executive authority of our country's governors who manage their National Guards, and we stand with the Governor Newsom, who's made it clear that violence is unacceptable and that local authorities should be able to do their job without the chaos of this federal interference and intimidation. Well, I'll tell you what, if the governor was doing his job
Bingo.
And actually protecting his city and preventing it from being burned down, California has a terrible record of protecting its cities, its country, its infrastructure. Riots, fires. The federal government's had to step in time and time again, and they're run by this radical leftist, politicians that are supportive of these rights and supportive of these folks.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about President Trump. He's lived and he's learned lessons.
Yes.
He learned lessons from 5 years ago, and saw what happened then.
Yeah.
And now, and he said that himself, that now he's not going to stand idly on the sidelines
and let
while the governor
burn.
and the mayor of Los Angeles are not doing their jobs.
That's right, because he did that back in the BLM riots in Minneapolis.
He absolutely did.
And it took 7 days, and he finally said, I'm calling in the National Guard. It took 7 days, but the city was burned down by that point. Yeah. So he's not doing that again. He's not playing those games. And well said. Do we have a text?
We do. And just says, hey, fellas, good morning. I've listened to the show for a few weeks now. Thanks for sending out your contact number. The subject, the people funding these insurrections are the same people who funded the boycotts in front of what used to be named the Galleria back in the 80s. I guess they're talking about here in Louisville.
Okay, all right.
I spoke with some of the protesters and was told by them that they were paid $12 an hour back in the day, which was really good money.
Yeah.
They went on to say that they didn't care one way or the other about the issue.
Right. Yeah, that does happen.
Now,
that's right.
Yeah. Signed, and this is, I'm sure they're making much more today.
Yeah.
And then another texter texts in and says, I propose two things. One, change the city name from Louisville to Wooeyville. If not Louisville, then Wooey. And two, for President Trump's birthday, let's gather at the YMCA and do his dance.
That's good. That's good. That'd be a pro-ICE protest.
That's a pretty good suggestion.
That's good. I'll do the YMCA.
Post it and send it to the White House.
That's right.
We still have time.
Yeah, there we go.
And they said sign to AG.
There we go. Well,
thanks, AG, for your comments. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we have some more time before the show's over. So text us 5710970. Love to hear your thoughts. What should we do? What should Louisvillians and Kentuckians do to respond to these these ICE protests, the No King's Day protest on Saturday. Most people are supportive of immigration enforcement, and especially this particular immigration enforcement, which is locking up true criminals beyond just being a criminal alien. They're actually criminals and with breaking other criminal laws. So people are very supportive of that. They want safe neighborhoods, and usually, I guarantee you this too. Most of these people are probably lily white, middle class people who are kind of left wing in their ideology. That live in these very safe neighborhoods that have where none of this impacts their lives. And so I bet more than half of these people that protest on Saturday are going to be people from the East End, live in these nice lily white neighborhoods, or the Highlands, where their property values are such that they don't have to deal with illegal immigration. They don't have to send their kid to a school where no one speaks English. And so it's the hypocrisy is ridiculous. So anyway, just. And back to Bashir. Shame on you, Bashir, for not protecting your city. You see where this is going.
Well, he's siding with arguably the most liberal leftist governor in
that's right.
In the United
exactly
States.
Right. Newsom,
and praises him.
Right.
And then he's, like you just said, he's siding with anarchists
and foreign immigrants foreign illegal immigrants who should not be here. You swore an oath to the Constitution to protect us as American citizens, as Kentuckians. How is your stance in this position helping us, defending us? It's not. You're supporting a flag of a foreign country, because they're waving the Mexican flag in downtown Louisville. The Mexican flag in downtown Louisville. This is Louisville. This is America.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
I was just going to say, enforcing immigration should not be a, one way or the other, conservative or liberal issue. It should be an American issue.
That's right.
Very good.
Yeah, exactly right.
Point.
Yeah, and listen, there's times in our country's history where immigration is appropriate. Right now, we ought to just shut it down. I'm talking illegal immigration too. I think we need to just slow it all down. 1 out of 4 people are foreign-born. It is the highest percentage we've ever had. It takes time to assimilate people, to kind of get them into the rhythm of what it is to be an American. If immigrants come here and they just live in these little communities and enclaves where they don't ever rub elbows with real Americans, with people that have been here for a while, they don't know what it is to be an American. So so you have to. There's real issues.
Well,
here
and the people who do it the right way, Tom, and come in through the front door.
That's right. They appreciate.
As we have seen, we were talking in the other segment.
That's right.
They're the ones that are speaking out probably most strongly right now against the riots and the waving of whatever nationality flag that you came from, and are saying we do need to assimilate.
That's right. That's right. We do need to assimilate, but I'll tell you this, and I think even legal immigrants would say this too. I think we're getting to the point where we're full. All right? America's close. We're full. It's getting to the point where we're having foreigners wave their foreign flags saying, we need to take back the Southwest. It's the Reconquista, Aslan, all this crazy stuff. Listen, you go talk to these folks in California, and they'll sit there and say, why are you protesting? Well, we don't want our family to be deported and all this. And also, this is kind of our land anyway. It was stolen land. You Americans stole this from us. And so we're getting to the point where this is getting kind of weird. It's getting to the point where it's a little bit almost like, okay, do we have a population here that could become seditious and sort of, point where they want to maybe break away or something, or create there's loyalties to countries that are other than America? These are kind of deep issues that we need to really think about. Yeah. This isn't just academic and hyperbole. This is what they're saying.
Yes.
Because I've actually engaged with some of these people in Louisville on Facebook. It's like, well, hey, you stole this land anyway, so we deserve to be here. You took this from us in 1848, and so what do you mean? And so this is wrong. We need to really get wide-eyed about this. Yeah, this is dangerous stuff.
We need to be more outspoken about it. It's like they have a sense of entitlement. They
exactly
right. You have to work to belong here.
That's right.
Everyone has to work for their sense of belonging.
That's right. And there's some hard-working people. Great. Maybe they helped our economy in some level, but I don't buy this stuff that Americans won't do these jobs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Americans won't do the job that at the price that you're willing to pay an illegal immigrant. Yeah, you might have to pay them a little bit more to be a roofer, but they'll do roofing. And so, all this stuff where, we have to have immigrants to do this. You ever heard of AI and robotics? You know, do we need a lot of manual labor here in the next 20, 30 years? I mean, it's going to be the economy's going to be totally different. It's going to be right. We're not going to need as much of this, unskilled labor. And it's anyway, whatever. There's just so many issues here. It is time to push back on this. And I may be a little radical in saying this, but I think America is closed. We need to just shut it off and stop. And it's kind of like a snake that's kind of swallowed a huge. You ever seen those snakes in the jungle where they swallow a huge piece of prey? They need to digest it. Well, we got to stop and digest this huge swath of immigration we've absorbed over the past 30, 40, 50 years, both legal and illegal.
Well, especially what's happened over the last 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. Right, 20 million just in the past 4 years. Yeah.
Until Trump
they need to leave. They need to get out. But they need. I'm going to be radical here. But they need. Everybody's coming in illegally. You need to get out of the past 4 years. People prior to that, maybe we can work something out. But you don't get citizenship. You might get residency, but you don't get citizenship. But it's time to crack down on this stuff. I'm tired of seeing Americans getting screwed. I'm tired of it. And I think everybody else listening feels that way too. I'm sorry, Bob. I'm talking over you a lot. So,
no.
You got 2 minutes left. I'm going to let you have the floor. Calm me down. Calm me down, Bob.
We're all, no, you just keep going, brother. We're all on the same page here. It's now, and again, I said it at the top of the show, President Trump is doing exactly that he was elected overwhelmingly. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
To do.
That's right.
He has a mandate from
right.
the American people, the silent majority.
That's
going
right.
back in time with the phrase there.
Well said.
But it is a silent majority, and people are sick and tired of it, and they want to see everyday Americans standing up for our country and what's right. I've got a son in the military service right now, and I don't want to see him have to go into situations that are being created and manufactured by globalists, neocons, and whoever in between.
Right.
We want to see a stable world.
That's right.
Pure and simple.
That's right. Yeah. And to your point, I think assuming these protests turn into riots like that, like I think they want them to, I think that's really going to help the Trump administration's position on this, because the average American doesn't want to see their cities burned, and especially don't want to see it burned by people that aren't even citizens, that don't even belong here. So what are you doing here? You're burning my city down, and you're not even from America. What are you protesting here? The fact that you can stay here illegally. If I break the law, I've got to go to jail. You get to break the law, and then you get fussy about it and want to burn our city down? I'm sorry. So I think that there's going to be more support if these riots really kick off like that. All right, pay attention to Saturday. No King's Day. That's when they're going to try to cause a ruckus here in Louisville too, in Shelbyville, other places in this area. So pay attention. So thanks for watching. This is Kentucky's Voice. I could go on for hours on that show.